Hey Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. In this video, we're going to review the AFC and NFC Championship games, expose how they were rigged. If you're new to my channel, in October, I started making videos showing how the upcoming Super Bowl was gift-wrapped for the Denver Broncos. It was rigged. It was predetermined. It was going to be a farewell for Peyton Manning in his 18th season, likely getting a Super Bowl farewell tribute, just as John Elway did at the end of his 16th season in 1999. In the time I was making those videos, I was searching for the right NFC opponent for the Denver Broncos, and the symbolism that made the most sense was the white Bronco versus the black Panther of Carolina, because the Super Bowl is so often themed off of what is going on in mainstream news reporting. And in the last few years, there has been a lot of black versus white mainstream news stories, especially with white police officers shooting young black youth. The purpose of my work is to wake people up to the fact that sports are rigged, news media is rigged, and who is doing this to us. A lot of people are mad at me because last week I second guessed myself and said, you know what, Truth Seekers, I think I'm wrong about the Broncos. It might actually be the Patriots. The reason I did that is because the season prior, I was showing how everything was scripted for the Colts, and they ended up getting knocked off in the AFC Championship by the Patriots. I thought I was having deja vu, and the Patriots were going to do it again this year to the Broncos, but that was my mistake. The main difference between the Colts season last year and the Broncos season this year is that Andrew Luck is still young and has many years left to play in the NFL. Peyton Manning, this is his farewell tour. And I think that's why the Broncos are in the Super Bowl this year. Colts got knocked out last year. And for those of you who don't follow the NFL that well, there's a major connection between the Colts and the Broncos. John Elway in history played college ball at Stanford, was drafted number 1 overall by the Baltimore Colts before being traded to the Denver Broncos. Andrew Luck was drafted number 1 overall after playing football at Stanford by the Indianapolis Colts. His drafting is what made Peyton Manning go to the Denver Broncos to play under John Elway. Last year, 2014, when the NFL season began, it was the year of the horse in the Chinese zodiac. Also part of the reason I thought it was in the bag for the Colts. Remember last year the Super Bowl halftime show was Dark Horse. Anyhow, I think this is all part of a linked up narrative. And I think once Manning exits the league, we're going to see Andrew Luck really emerge and play very elite football. I think Andrew Luck will be taking over as one of the superstars of the league, with Tom Brady getting older, Peyton Manning retiring. So anyhow, that backstory out of the way, let's go over the rigging here of yesterday's championship games. Notice what I have on the screen. If you're new here, it's gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. This is the year of Super Bowl 50. There was a major pattern this year in the playoffs, starting with the wild card round. In the wild card round, it was the first time in the history of the league that all the away teams won. And all the away teams won by a combined sum of 50 points. And notice that the word away in gematria equals 50. This is the year of Super Bowl 50. The word home has gematria of 41. In the wild card round, all the away teams won. In the divisional round, all the away teams lost. And yesterday in the championship round, all the away teams lost. The home teams won yesterday on a date with 41 numerology, a number we're going to talk about a lot in the Broncos-Patriots matchup. 41 was a bigger number in that game. But the home teams won yesterday on the date with 41 numerology. So we're going to go through the Panthers-Cardinals game, but I want to jump right to the focus, what stood out to me the most out of all the plays in the Carolina Cardinals game. Cam Newton, to score the 33rd point of the game for the Panthers, did a Superman impersonation, flying into the end zone, doing a somersault and landing cleanly, showing what an incredible athlete he is. You know, This is a big man, 6'6". I don't even know his weight, but a man that looks like a statue moving. And here he does this acrobatic somersault, a true freak of nature in terms of athleticism. And when he flew into the end zone this way, the announcers referred to him as Superman, which is his nickname, of course. What stands out, though, is this is how he scored the 33rd point. 33 is a very important number to the Freemasons. Football was created by the Freemasons. This year, they've created the 33-yard extra point attempt. 33 yards, no doubt another tribute to the Masons. And what I'm trying to explain to people is that these games are scripted. This was a 12-yard touchdown run by Cam Newton. The Panthers were last in Super Bowl 38, 12 Super Bowls ago. They'll be in 50. 12 representing complete numerology. Anyhow, there was more to it than it just being the 33rd point and him getting this Superman tribute when his nickname's Superman. On the screen, they flashed that this drive lasted 4 minutes and 11 seconds. And that stood out to me right away because I'd already been tracking this. Last year, Cam Newton supposedly got in a car accident just before a game. It was supposed to be a really bad car accident. And the date that it happened on was a date with 35 numerology, just like the gematria of Superman. That wreck was 411 days ago, right? And then he gets this Superman finishing drive that supposedly took 4 minutes and 11 seconds. And if you're sitting there going, well, that's impossible for them to sync that up, here's what they do, Truth Seeker. Pay attention to the game clock in football and how often the scorekeeper runs off 3 extra seconds, or 2 extra seconds, or 1 extra second. So often a guy will cross the end zone plane, and the clock should stop right there, but they'll run it for another 2 or 3 seconds. They do this to sync it up with the times they want. I've pointed this out in other videos, and that's how you turn a drive that's maybe 4 minutes and 8 seconds or 4 minutes and 12 seconds into a drive that's 4 minutes and 11 seconds. You fudge it to hit the number that you want. As for this number, though, it's not a comforting number. 411 represents the word assassin. Assassin. JFK was shot from 411 Elm Street in the middle of Dealey Plaza, named after a 33rd degree Freemason. 2 years before that happened, in 1961 on Christmas Day, an episode of the Andy Griffith Show was about tracking down a bootlegging family who got traced back to the address 411 Elm Street. And of course, the Kennedys are notorious for being a bootlegging family, gaining their power during the time of Prohibition. Also, that was a span of 58 weeks and 5 days from the wreck to yesterday's game and the 4:11 Superman touchdown drive. 58 weeks stands out because Cam Newton will be the 58th QB to ever start in a Super Bowl. And Jerry Richardson, the owner of the Panthers, was drafted in the year 58. The word Freemasonry equals 58. Jerry Richardson's a Freemason. 58's an important number. I pointed this out last week in the game against the Seahawks. Last week in the game against the Seahawks, the first man out of the tunnel in the pregame ceremony was Thomas Davis Sr., who wears the number 58. He also made the clinching play of last week's game against the Seahawks. I pointed this out before the game began against the Seahawks. I said, look who's out of the tunnel first. Number 58, the tribute to Jerry Richardson, the tribute to Freemasonry. Well, this week I looked more into Mr. Davis Sr. and I noticed some things. So again, Cam Newton will be the 58th QB to start. Richardson drafted in 58. Freemasonry equals 58. The name on the back of his jersey is Davis Sr. Davis Sr. has gematria of 38, just like Panthers equals 38. Just like the Super Bowl will be on the 38th day of the year this year. And also the Panthers were in Super Bowl 38. They'll be facing Colorado, which is the 38th state. And Colorado in gematria also equals 38. Look at what date his birthday is, number 58. He's born on March 22nd, 322, an infamous number in Freemasonry. He's also born in the year 83. Remember, football equals 83. They say the best QB draft class is the class of 83 with Elway, Marino, Kelly, and more. The name Thomas Davis has gematria 41, also just like yesterday's date numerology. They were playing at home. And then with regards to that 322 March 22nd birthday, in most parts of the world that's written 22/3 the day before the month. In the US we write it month before day. But anyway, 223 is Masonic in Jewish gematria, a number I've talked about a lot in my playoff videos. I did the video on Blair Walsh, talked about the significance of 223, and then the next day, ESPN had a front page story about his miss that was 2 minutes and 23 seconds in length. No coincidence. Masonic and simple English gematria is 74. Charlotte is home of the 704 area code. 0 doesn't count in numerology. If you're not aware, Charlotte's the second richest city in the nation, only behind New York. New York equals 39, just like Charlotte equals 39. Peyton Manning's 39 years old this year, a very important number to the Masons and Zionist Jews. The reason Charlotte's the second richest city in the nation, only behind New York, is because that's where all the banks are headquartered. 322, the number of skull and bones, the Masonic order that a lot of elites are part of, all syncing up with Thomas Davis Sr. And yesterday, this shot at a minute 17 was right when the announcers acknowledged that the game was over. I mean, it was already long over, but as soon as they started talking about how it was over and the Super Bowl would be Broncos and Panthers, the camera went right to this. The hug of Ron Rivera and Davis Sr. No coincidence. Something before the games that there'd been 57 QBs to start in a Super Bowl. So either Carson Palmer or Cam Newton was going to be the 58th because Manning and Brady had already started. But that number 57 is interesting too, because when you write out 57, it equals 131, just like Super Bowl, just like championship. And in this article, I pointed out that Cam Newton is born on May 11th, the 131st day of the year, just like Super Bowl, just like championship. You know? It's amazing how it's all synced up. The drive at the end of the half for the Panthers, their last touchdown drive before the half was 46 yards. Definitely not a coincidence, all part of the scripting. As I've been pointing out, this Super Bowl is all themed with Chicago because it's the 46th Super Bowl of the modern era. It's Super Bowl 50, but the 46th of the modern era, which began with Super Bowl 5. The Arizona Cardinals, originally from Chicago. The Carolina Panthers, coached by Ron Rivera, who played his football on the Bears, winning the Super Bowl in 85, or at the end of the 85 season against the Patriots. They won it 46-10 with the revolutionary 4-6 defense, and Chicago in gematria equals 46. As for Peyton Manning, he's only won one Super Bowl in his life. Over the Bears, he won it 29-17, a sum of 46. And of course, the Patriots had lost to the Bears in the Super Bowl that Ron Rivera won 46-10. So all four of the remaining teams that played yesterday, all connections to Chicago, all fit for the 46th Super Bowl of the modern era. And really, I think there were narratives for all of them to appear in the Super Bowl. I think the way they do it is based on betting. You know, they have to make sure that Vegas wins at the end of the day. They won big with the Patriots-Broncos game. Broncos usually involved in football games that generate big dollars for Vegas. Super Bowl 48, where the Broncos lost to the Seahawks, was the biggest payday ever for Vegas. More than the three most profitable Super Bowls combined. That's how much money Vegas made off that Super Bowl. Very rigged. The only Super Bowl ever played on the 33rd day of the year, February 2nd. This year on February 2nd, a show debuts called O.J. Simpson versus the People. And the preview for that shows the White Bronco, which I was talking about weeks ago as more foreshadowing for the Broncos and Black Panthers Super Bowl, which we now have. Cam Newton also finished off this 46-yard drive, scoring at a minute 56. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's really how well it was synced up. That's a special number. That's the God number in English gematria. Also, the number 911 as in 911 is the 156th prime.